At the same time, we must continue to engage the world with confidence and clear purpose. In the face of threats from abroad, it can be tempting to seek comfort by turning inward. But we must reject isolationism and its companion, protectionism. Retreating behind our borders would only invite danger. In the 21st century, security and prosperity at home depend on the expansion of liberty abroad. If America does not lead the cause of freedom, that cause will not be led. As we address these challenges and others we cannot foresee tonight, America must maintain our moral clarity. I've often spoken to you about good and evil, and this has made some uncomfortable. But good and evil are present in this world, and between the two, there can be no compromise. Murdering the innocent to advance an ideology is wrong every time, everywhere. Freeing people from oppression and despair is eternally right. This nation must continue to speak out for justice and truth. We must always be willing to act in their defense and to advance the cause of peace. President Thomas Jefferson once wrote, "I like the dreams of the future better than the history of the past." As I leave the house he occupied 2 centuries ago, I share that optimism. America is a young country, full of vitality, constantly growing and renewing itself. And even in the toughest times, we lift our eyes to the broad horizon ahead. I have confidence in the promise of America because I know the character of our people. This is a nation that inspires immigrants to risk everything for the dream of freedom. This is a nation where citizens show calm in times of danger and compassion in the face of suffering. We see examples of America's character all around us. And Laura and I have invited some of them to join us in the White House this evening. We see America's character in Dr. Tony Rekasner, a principal who opened a new charter school from the ruins of Hurricane Katrina. We see it in Julio Medina, a former inmate who leads a faith-based program to help prisoners returning to society. We see it in Staff Sergeant Aubrey McDade, who charged into an ambush in Iraq and rescued 3 of his fellow Marines. We see America's character in Bill Kristoff, a surgeon from California. His son, Nathan, a Marine, gave his life in Iraq. When I met Dr. Kristoff and his family, he delivered some surprising news. He told me he wanted to join the Navy Medical Corps in honor of his son. This good man was 60 years old, 18 years above the age limit. But his petition for a waiver was granted, and for the past year he is trained in battlefield medicine. Lieutenant Commander Kristoff could not be here tonight because he will soon deploy to Iraq, where he will help save America's wounded warriors and uphold the legacy of his fallen son. In citizens like these, we see the best of our country, resilient and hopeful, caring and strong. These virtues give me an unshakable faith in America. We have faced danger and trial, and there's more ahead. But with the courage of our people and confidence in our ideals, this great nation will never tire, never falter, and never fail. It has been the privilege of a lifetime to serve as your president. There have been good days and tough days. But every day I have been inspired by the greatness of our country and uplifted by the goodness of our people. I have been blessed to represent this nation we love, and I will always be honored to carry a title that means more to me than any other: citizen of the United States of America. And so, my fellow Americans, for the final time, good night. May God bless this House and our next president, and may God bless you and our wonderful country. Thank you.
W. Bush, his official farewell to the people of the United States, his last official address to the nation as president. For 22 years, my colleague Wendell Goler has been a White House correspondent and has covered this president for all of his 8 years. And tonight, Wendell Goler, the mood at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Well, Shep, I think there's a bit of disappointment here. The president, in his first inaugural address, promised to try and restore a tone of civility and respect to Washington. He admitted in his last news conference that didn't happen. He started out well. His first year in office, the No Child Left Behind Act, a partnership with Senator Ted Kennedy. But since then, it's been pretty much partisan politics as usual. The president says he played the hand that was dealt him, and if a lot of people disagreed with some of the tough decisions he made, at least he was willing to make those tough decisions. His proudest achievement, of course, keeping the country safe after the 9/11 attacks, as we heard the president say tonight. For many people in this country, life eventually returned to normal, but it never did for him. And yet some of the elements of the war on terror he launched, the Guantanamo Bay holding prisoners without charge or trial there, the renditions to black prisons overseas, the waterboarding, the warrantless wiretaps, the president denies costs America moral standing. He says he is now very much ready to leave the stage, to retire, though it won't be the kind of retirement we think of, Shep. The president says no straw hat, no Hawaiian shirt sitting on a beach for him.
He spoke more than once of the attacks of 9/11 and of the future as it relates to our enemies. The president said, as he has before, our enemies are patient and determined to strike again. And you get the sense that President Bush believes that to the best of his ability, he's left us safe and secure tonight.
And that is his proudest achievement, Shepard.
What happens from here? We know that we don't expect to see him in any public setting, barring anything that we cannot foresee, prior to the nomination prior to the inauguration of the next president.
Well, the president will spend the weekend at Camp David and then return here, of course, for the nomination of Barack Obama. He will be with him for that day, for the swearing in at the Capitol. And then as the new president makes his way down Pennsylvania Avenue to his new house here at 1600, President Bush will take his last flight on what had been called Air Force One. It will be a special air mission plane for him to take him back to Texas. There'll be a ceremony for him in Midland, Texas, and then, Shepard, he'll get to see the new house his wife bought without his ever having seen it.
You were there 8 years on the last day for President George W. Bush, and I know over the last few days and even weeks, he's been a bit more reflective than we have seen him in the public in the past. I wonder how he has seemed as you work so closely with him in the most recent days.
Well, it's interesting. You expect the president to kind of unload a little bit in his final days, but Mr. Bush has been relatively upbeat. He denies there's such a thing as the burden of office, for example. The president saying even in the darkest days of Iraq, when the situation got out of control, that there were joyous days here. And yet he says he'll be happy to leave, and he says when President-elect Obama steps into the White House, into the Oval Office for the first time, he will feel the awesome weight of that office, Shepard.
Wendell Goler, our veteran White House correspondent, outside 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue tonight. So there you have it. We've heard from President Bush for the last time, officially, as far as we know, before the inauguration of Barack Obama as the 44th president of these United States. I'll be with you on Tuesday morning from Washington live on this Fox station for the inauguration at midday, at high noon, for the train ride which precedes it in the days, and then after for the balls which will celebrate the transition of power. Continuing coverage on this Fox station, on your late local news, and on the O'Reilly Factor right now on Fox News Channel on cable and satellite. I'm Shepard Smith, Fox News, New York.